One, men, you're responsible for everything inside that household. And whether you want it to be responsible or not, you are. That is your natural, ordained, God-given right, is that you are the head of your household. And anything that happens in that household is ultimately back to you.
Mm-hmm.
It's like with our kids, the lady I work with, she reminded me of this, that the only thing that you have a chance to take to heaven is your kids. That's it. You can't take anything else with you. But you have a chance to take your kids, and you are responsible.
Welcome to Real Man Talk, discussing the tough issues facing men and their families every day. Here's Anthony Kernott and Kyler Sau.
What's up, guys? Welcome to Real Men Talk. Today, Kyler and I are going to have a conversation about the silent epidemic, the fact that men are not involved in the church. We see this in our church, big time. You know, when we go to a decent sized church, and the amount of men that participate are, you know, few and far between,
Minuscule,
and so it is absolutely epidemic, and we need men inside the church, not just us as a church, but the church needs men. We need the influence of men inside the church. And so this is the conversation we're going to be having. And so I'm excited about it. Kyler, how are you doing?
I'm fantastic.
Yeah.
A little worn out. I feel like I've gone back to back to back these last couple of days, but not bad.
Yeah. You guys are remodeling the bathroom?
Yes. So when we go on vacation every year, we do a house remodel to pay for the vacation. That way nobody's just out a bunch of money.
Right.
So this one project we're doing will pay for our vacation.
Okay.
So it's great, but it's a huge renovation. It's a huge renovation. And the house is from the 70s. So there's mold everywhere. There's this, there's that. And I'm like, I like manual labor, don't get me wrong. But if I have a choice, I'm not going to do manual labor. I'm going to go sit on the couch.
Right.
So, but luckily it's me and my dad and my brother-in-law, so it's not too bad.
Yeah.
But
and it's a bathroom. Like, that is the worst thing in the world to remodel.
Yes.
It absolutely is. I hate it.
Yeah. And it's this tiny space with, I mean, I'm the littlest one. Everybody else is bigger than me. So we're like, move. I'm like, hey, I'll vacuum, move. So
that's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Man.
So here we go. We're going to go ahead and jump into this. You know, like I was saying when we first come in, men being in the church is so crucial, right? You know, which we talk about on here all the time.
Yeah.
The importance of a man's influence, right?
Yes.
Every man has influences leadership. Well, when the men are not involved in the church, you're literally losing your influence.
Yes.
Right. You are literally losing your influence. And so, so somebody has to pick up the slack.
Right.
Right. Somebody has to. And you know, the thing about it is you are teaching the next generation.
Yes, definitely.
Right. You know, and I guess I really shouldn't be super hard on our church. I mean, I guess we do have quite a few men that, as a whole, that participate.
Right.
Right. You know, I guess we do, but
we have a decent amount of men consistently, but we're not rising up many new men.
Right.
I mean, we just talked about this before, because you're on pastor's council.
Right.
No new men even tried to even run for pastor's council. It was the same people. And so, yes, while we have men who have stepped up and taken those roles, there's no new men willing to fill the roles now.
Right.
So, and that's also an issue.
It is an issue.
Yeah.
You know, the lack of, you know, and I don't know if it's just the lack of discipleship or if it's the lack of people willing to be discipled. Right.
Yeah.
You know, for instance, you know, we run the Thursday night men's group.
Right. Yeah.
Right. It's been the same guys up there forever. I don't know how much advertisement I've done and stuff like that. And this isn't, you know, oh, nobody supports me. Bullcrap. You know,
he's pulling my chain. It's me he's talking to here.
Yeah, Kyler didn't come. But to Kyler's defense, he's a very busy man. He's got 5 kids. And so all under 5. And so
it's a lot.
It's a lot.
He's been there. He knows.
I know. So I try to catch you some slack, but you know, when you talk to men, you hear the same things. All right. You know what I mean? I'm okay. You know, really, here's the truth of it, not just at our church. Okay.
Right.
So let's just negate our church for a minute. Let's just set our church aside. The church as a whole, men have not stepped up.
No.
Right. And that's really what we're trying to talk about is the lack of men inside of the church as a whole. It's been really feminized. Right.
Most definitely.
Yeah, it was funny. I had this Christmas, I was having a discussion with my cousin, and he's a worship pastor for his church. And I was talking about how the church has kind of been feminized. Yeah. And one of the ways it has done that overall is the way that praise and worship is done, right? It's really geared to very, how do I put this? Romanticized.
Emotional human beings.
Well, I mean, I don't want to put it that way. You know what I mean? Okay.
Well, worship has changed to where you have to be more, to me, and I hope this is where you're going with this. I may not be going where your mind is, but like it's changed to more of an emotional experience where the words are definitely more like words women might use in a worship. Right. It's more, just look at hymns where men were writing most of those hymns, and then look at these worship songs now, which men are writing a decent amount, but they know they're catering to a different audience, if that makes sense. And so the way that things are expressed are more feminine now than they would be necessarily like the boom, boom, boom. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I want to lay my head in his lap and put my head on his bosom. And, it's kind of weird, right? What's the comedian's name? Tim Hawkins talks about it. He's like, I want to touch your face. I just want to touch his, he talks about this, but it's seriously, right? Seriously. And I love praise and worship, right? Yeah. I love worship. To be honest, it's my favorite part of church. Yeah. But sometimes it's like, okay, this is uncomfortable, even for me. Yeah. Right. And I've grown up in the church. And it's like, man, this is, but I mean, that's not the only thing that's going on. Right. Right. And a lot of that is the men's fault themselves. Right. Because if you're going, okay, so let's go back to worship. If you're going to cater to an audience, you're going to cater to the audience that's there. Yes. Right. Yeah. And because of the lack of men in the church, they have to cater to the women who are there. Right. Right. And so that's just the nature of it. Men as a whole have removed themselves, maybe not even from the church as a whole, but being active in the church. Yes. Right. They'll participate. I'll give you an example. A friend of mine is a pastor in a town nearby, and we went to his church. He had invited Malachi to come speak. And so we go there, and the way my mind works, the first thing I do is I'm seeing, what kind of men are in the church. He's scouting. There was one guy. That was it? It was it. And was he was you? Probably, no, outside of me. Outside of me, and the pastor. Yeah. Right. There was one guy, and he was probably 70 years old. Right. He's probably gone there. That's it. No way. You know what I'm saying? It's a real issue. Yeah. Right. And again, you go back to women have done a phenomenal job, right? They've stepped up. We've touched on this before. They've stepped up where they had to. Right. Right. A lot of times women are running everything. Yeah. Right. Because they're resilient. There's no men. Yeah. They're resilient human beings, and when they really step to a challenge, they are given the gift to multiply whatever they are given. And we as men, when we step back, they step up because they are the see a need, fill a need type of people. Women are, and they see the need, and they just know that's the nurturing aspect of who they are. Right. And where we as men, sometimes we just check out because it gets too hard, or we check out because there's too much to do, or we check out because there's too much responsibility. And for far too long have we allowed ourselves or given excuses that, oh, it's okay. You're a hardworking man. If you need to stay at home on church, that's fine because you work the other 6 days a week. Yeah. I get it. I do. I mean, I understand that working is hard, and some people, especially like farmers, I mean, you work sun up to sundown 7 days a week. However,
we as men, we can't take a back seat because we know that somebody has filled that role.
Right. Well, and I think that we forget the importance of our influence.
Yeah.
Right. You know, if we're not there, if we're not showing that it's important, right, then the people around us that we are influencing, our children, our wives,
right,
they're not going to see it as important.
No,
right.
Not at all.
The way that the home should be is the man should be the spiritual leader of the home. If you do not value church, do not value biblical things, you cannot be you cannot be the spiritual leader of your home also. Right. You can't. Like, it doesn't work that way. And therefore, again, women are having to step up there, right, and be in the spiritual role, the spiritual role model in the home also. Yes. Right. And that's a problem. It is. It really is a problem. And here's the problem with it. It's not because women shouldn't do those things, right? Not because they're not supposed to be spiritual, not because they're not supposed to have roles in church, right? That's not where we're going. It's because they're filling a role that they shouldn't have to fill. Exactly. Right? Yes. They're doing something because the need is there. Yeah. Right? Because the lack of masculinity, right, biblical masculinity, is not fulfilling that role. Right. Right. And that's an issue. That's a problem. And you look at like Paul, and this verse is just an example. 1 Corinthians 16:13 says, "Be watchful, stand firm in the faith, act like men, be strong." Act like men. That's not an accident. Right. Right. Us as men, right, we are to be the spiritual protectors of our homes. Yes. We are supposed to be the spiritual leaders of our homes. We should also be the spiritual leaders in the church. Right. And again, nobody's combating, whether women can have roles in church, we're not talking about that. Right. As a whole, if God has ordained men as leaders, yes, right, and men are not fulfilling the role inside the church, your community is going to lack. Right. Because what do we always say? The homes affect the church. The church affects the community. Yes. Right. Yes. It all starts inside the home. And so if you expect to have a spiritually strong community, right, you have to have a spiritually strong church. Yes. If you do not have spiritually strong men, church can only grow so much. Right. That's just all there is to it. Yeah. And, I feel like I have to keep saying this because people are going to take me out of context. I know they are. I am not saying that women cannot fill that role. I'm just saying that the vast majority of time, it's not their role to fill. No. And here's what I'm trying to say, at least. I hope Anthony's trying to say this too, is there's an order that God has ordained as it's supposed to be. Is the man is the head, and then there's the wife, and then there's the kids. Okay. And here's the thing is what we've made or forced women to do is we've made them be almost the head of the household and then we got to get to go do what we want to do when we want to do it. And that's not how it should be, because men, you're responsible for everything inside that household. And whether you want it to be responsible or not, you are. That is your natural, ordained, God-given right, is that you are the head of your household. Anything that happens in that household is ultimately back to you. It's like with our kids, the lady I work with, she reminded me of this, that the only thing that you have a chance to take to heaven is your kids. That's it. You can't take anything else with you. But you have a chance to take your kids, and you are responsible to an extent if they 100%. Get there. Yeah. You are. Now, don't get me wrong. They make their own choices later on in life. You can only do so much, but you are to raise them up in the ways they should go. And if you are not raising them up and you're leaving your wife to do it, she's trying to fill two jobs, which you then need to ask yourself, are they fully getting this, what they need to get? And the answer is no, not in any way, shape, or form are they allowed to. But there's an order that we have to remember. Don't get me wrong. I love hearing some women speak. Priscilla Shire, I love her. Every time she gets on the speak, and there's like a 20-minute, because that's about as long as my brain can last on one episode, 20 minutes, I'm listening because she speaks life into everything that she gives. But we as men, we are to lead our next generation. We are to pave the paths. We are to set the boundaries. We are to set the standards. We are to set the expectation. We are to set what it should look like. We are the example, and we have stopped being the example. A lot of women to become the example for everything. And there's no need.
when you are married, when you have a household, it is a 50-50 exchange. And right now, men, it's kind of like an 80-20 exchange. 20% of the time we'll show up if we're not tired, or there's a video game to play, or, the ball game's on, or, fill in the blank here.
Right.
But we as men, we have to step back up. We have to step to the natural order, because when there's not order, that leaves room for chaos. And where there's chaos, that's where the devil likes to get in, and he likes to divide, and he likes to conquer, and he likes to do many things. And I had this conversation with a lady this week, and there's some things that she's trying to fix in her family. And I tried to tell her, she goes, the devil is the ruler of earth. And I said, let's take this back into context here. I said, the devil is the prince of the earth. I said, but he is not the king of the earth. I said, he is the prince. He can only do what he's allowed to do. And I said, he still has a ruler over him. I was like, and so, yes, it may look like the devil is just there and he's hounding at you and everything else. When you are under the king's authority, God's authority, and you are falling into his order, it doesn't matter how much chaos the devil tries to bring against you, the order will fall back into God's plan, God's perspective, God's ... whatever it is. And we have to fall back into the order as men.
Right. And I wonder how much of it is fear of commitment. Right. I mean,
92%.
I would say this is something we deal with a lot as men. And what drives me nuts, and it's been this way for a long time, especially around here, because sports is a big thing.
Right.
Is you will see men take their kids to every sporting event. They'll do every traveling sporting event, and they'll be gone every Sunday. They'll be doing all this.
Yes.
And they will commit to that.
Yeah.
But when it comes to getting them in the church, they won't. No. Right. And I wonder how much of it is the unknown. Right. They're familiar with sports. Right. Let's say they have a son who plays whatever, football,
right,
basketball, whatever they can play all year long. Right? Baseball. Yeah. And they take them to all these traveling games. They take them all this, right. They know baseball. They are comfortable with baseball.
Yes.
Right. So it's easy to commit to that because it's in their comfort zone.
Right.
Right. But when it comes to being a spiritual leader, they have no idea.
Yeah.
They have no clue what that looks like. They have no clue what that means. And therefore, because of that, it's easier just to be like, no,
right.
I'm going to stick with what I'm comfortable with because I don't really know what's going on here, and I don't know what it's going to require of me.
Right.
And I don't know if I'm going to be able to be good at it.
Yeah.
Right. What if I fail? Right.
Exactly.
And that weighs on them so much, but you have to ask yourself, and this is where the line of thinking stops. What's more important, right? Your kid making a baseball team or your kid making it to heaven?
Right.
Right. There are three relationships that are more important than anything else on this earth. First and foremost, your relationship with Jesus Christ.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Second, in this order, your wife. Third, your children. Yeah. Right. Obviously, friends and stuff are important, but those are the three most important relationships you'll have in your life. Yeah. And making sure that you are tending to those adequately, right? Obviously, Jesus is our role model. He's our king. We serve him, right? But leading the other two relationships to Jesus is the most important thing we can do in our life. And part of that is church, not because, and I want to be very clear, not because church sends you to heaven. Right. It doesn't. Church doesn't send you to heaven. Church, not because you'll be viewed as the most spiritual person. Right. Right. Not because church can fix everything. That's not the point. Right. The point is to give them community. Yes. Right. Give your wife community. Give your children community. Right. Yeah. You remember the statistic about the 70% of kids right? The difference between the 70 and the 30 was that there was at least 5 people in their life. Right, that poured into them. Right. Now, that's key. That is church, right? That happens in a church setting. Right. That is so crucial. I look at my children, I don't know if you see my Facebook post, and I know you're not on Facebook very much. Somebody sent me a video the other day. They had visited the West Campus at James River. and Tony was leading worship.
Yeah.
Right. And I think about that, and I'm so grateful for his heart for Jesus. But that wasn't all me.
Yeah.
Right. It was the people that I surrounded him with. And
100%.
that was intentional.
Yeah.
Right. That was intentional. Every chance that he got to spend with Zach, the youth pastor at the time. Yes, please do. Right. Please do. Every time he got to spend time with godly men inside the church, please do.
Right.
Please go play basketball with him.
Yes.
Please go, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Right. Spend time with them. Right. That is church.
Yes.
That is the importance of church.
Yes.
People act like you have to go to church in order to go to heaven.
Mm-hmm.
That's not true.
Right.
You have to have church to survive this earth,
Yes.
right? Not because it's church, right? Because it's like this brick and mortar building, right? It's because it's a community of believers that help build each other up.
Yes.
It's the most important thing. Thursday night men's group is my favorite night of the week. I look forward to it every week, not because I'm the leader, right? Not because, we eat every time or, not because something fancy happens, because those men understand me.
Right.
Those men understand the hardships that I go through. Mm-hmm. Right. Whenever I say, hey, I'm struggling, those men are there for me. Right. When they are struggling and I'm like, I'm there for them. Right. We are a community. Right. Right. The Bible says iron sharpens iron as one man sharpens another. That is church. Mm-hmm. And if we do not have that, then you cannot properly grow. Right. You had mentioned pastor's council, right? Yeah. So I've sat on the pastor's council now for 3 years. So this was my third year, right? Mm-hmm. So every third year you run for election again. And in those 3 years, I'm the youngest one on there, but I have learned so much, right, from the men that are in that council, right, on that council, the wisdom that is there, like Brother Marvin, right? Yeah. I mean, really, that's all that really needs to be said. Yes, Dick Van Dyke. He's such a special person. Those things that you learn, right, you learn inside of a church. Yes. If we are not there, we cannot be those people. No, we cannot be those influences in our children, in your children's lives, right? I can't be that influence in your children's life. You can't be that influence in my children, which you have been, right? You were one of the people that Tony constantly went to, and
I came in late. It's fine. I just helped push him at the very end.
Right, but
get over there.
But seriously, and so, but that community, right?
Right, yeah.
The other day, when we were all over at your house, that last time.
Oh, yeah, the game night?
The game night. It was, December, I guess it was. It was before Christmas. And, or maybe it was right after Christmas. I can't remember now.
Right before New Year's, yeah.
Right before New Year's, that's when it was. And all the kids were running around playing. Yeah. I loved it. Yes. Right. To me, that's so vitally important. I mean, I enjoyed the community. Right. Yeah. I enjoyed all of that. But the children being able to grow up together, seeing godly examples of multiple different people, right? Yes. That's church. Yeah. That is church.
It is.
Not because it happens inside of a brick and mortar building. No. But because you're a community of like-minded believers. Yes. And we have to be the influence. That's what I'm trying to get to. We have to be the influence for the others. Yes. Right.
Well, I think that one of the things with men is we're afraid to fail. And I don't think I know that's an issue. But if I wouldn't have failed all the times that I failed, I would not be the man that I am today, because God doesn't work through your tribulations most of the time. He can, but most of the time it's through those trials that he's teaching you lessons. And the previous seasons that I've been in, my mother-in-law has always told me, she goes, you need to make sure that you're praying so that you learn whatever lesson you need to learn so you don't repeat the season again, because God puts us through the refiner's fire pretty much to get us to where he needs us to be. And as men, that's uncomfortableness that they have to step into. And at church, sometimes the words are uncomfortable. Sometimes the message is uncomfortable. Sometimes the worship is uncomfortable. Sometimes we don't say the right things, or sometimes in the back of our heads, we know we've done something Monday through Friday, and then we're sitting in church on Sunday. You know, I'd rather you go do something Monday through Friday and come to church on Sunday, because that's where you need to be. Because eventually God's going to be able to do a work.
Right.
It may take you 52 Sundays of you being there and you still doing Monday through Friday work and then coming on Sunday. But what I'm saying is you need to fail for God to get you to where you be, because we were not born perfect beings. We can't, we physically cannot be born perfect. We are born into a world of sin with a sinful nature. You know, as much as we try, there is no way. I mean, sometimes even my intrusive thoughts become extrusive thoughts, and they come out loud, and I say things I'm not supposed to say. But we have to be able to step into that uncomfortableness. We have to be okay to fail, to be able to lead the next generation, because we have to be able to teach them from experiences. And if you don't have any of those experiences, how can you, I don't want to say be validated, but how can I would almost rather trust somebody who's been through it than somebody who's just talking. Yeah. And so that's where I guess the point is I'm trying to get is you have to experience it to have some type of repertoire, whatever it's called, with other people.
Well, you think about it like this. Think about it like a battle scenario, right? So do you want to go in with somebody who's green?
I hope not.
Or would you rather have the guy who's got like the scars all over his face, right? He's missing a pinky because he got shot off, right? You know what I mean?
Legs blown off. I'm going with that guy.
Yeah, exactly. He knows.
Yeah.
He knows. He's been in, he knows what it's like to struggle. He knows what it's like to be in a fight. Right.
He knows what mistakes he's made and what not to make again.
Exactly. That is who we are supposed to be, right? Nobody's asking for perfection. And I think you're right. I think that oftentimes we get fixated, right, on I have to be perfect. Right. Because I've heard it so many times, I can't live this life, right? I can't live a perfect life. Nobody's asking you to live a perfect life.
No.
We're just asking you to show up.
Right.
We're just asking you to take responsibility. Right. We're just asking you to put yourself aside for just a moment. Right. And step up and be a man.
Right. When Jesus came to this earth, he did not eat with a single perfect person.
No.
Not at all. I mean, he was rebuked for eating with tax collectors and this and that, and people who were unclean or seen as unclean. I mean, he wants to eat with you. He wants to sit down and talk to you. He wants to hear your story because you're messed up, and that's who he loves.
Right. And our children, right? Our children need that, right? The next generation needs that. Other men need that. Yeah. Right. Other men need men who've made mistakes. Yes. You know, Cassie and her group that they do this, the recovery group, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. They need to see men who've been like, I've been on the other side of this, right? I've come on the other side of this. Right. We need hope.
Yes.
Right. You know, my favorite example in the Bible is Peter. Mm-hmm. Why? Not because he was a saint, right?
Because he was hot-headed like you. That's what it is.
That's part of it. Absolutely. But through his failures, right, you see him succeed in the end.
Yes.
Right. You see him be able to overcome his failures and to be able to be the man that God called him to be. Right.
Yes.
In spite of his failures. Right. And that's what we're supposed to be.
Yes.
To take a step, take responsibility for who we are. Right. And the problem is it's a heavy weight.
Right.
Right. It is a heavy weight. It's supposed to be a heavy weight. It's expected to be a heavy weight. Anything on this earth that is worth doing, it's going to be heavy.
Right.
It's going to be heavy. And we have to understand that us going into it, we're going to fail, right? We're going to mess up. We're going to say things we're not going to say. We're not supposed to say, right? We're going to do things we're not supposed to do. We're going to mess up. We're going to set a bad example, right? But then we're also going to end up being those people in our lives. I remember in 2017, when I was going through all those issues with my head, Josh Reasons consistently, every time I seen him, he made it a point. He's like, it's just a season, right? I bet I heard that. I bet he told me that every single time. I should
have got that tattooed on the other arm.
I should have. maybe that'll be my next one. But when I didn't even realize until I don't know. I was thinking about this just a couple weeks ago. I was thinking about this, right? Because I was talking with somebody. I was like, listen, this is just a season.
Yeah.
Right. And I thought, I've heard that so many times, right? This is just, it's not because he's the smartest person in the room. Most of the time he is. It's not but because he understands. It's just a season.
Yes.
And he was right. That encouragement helped me to get over that, right? To get past that. That encouragement of this is not going to last forever. This will not last forever. This is only a season, right? And that was unique to my situation. But that friendship, right? That camaraderie, you know, however you say that word.
Yeah. You said it right.
All of that, that's what that's about.
Yes.
Right? Without our influence inside the church, there is lacking.
Yes. Yeah.
The church is lacking, right? Somebody is lacking. We have a mandate. We have a purpose, right? We talk about this all the time. We are here for a purpose. And that purpose is not just to live our own life, right? It is to help others. It is help others grow. It is to help others learn. It is to, sometimes learn from our example of stupidity, right? Listen, I've already been through that. One of the things I try to teach my kids, because I remember saying this, and I remember hearing people say this all the time. Well, I have to make my own mistakes. That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. Right?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I have to learn I have to make my own mistakes. You're an idiot. Right? You're an idiot. Right?
Somebody else already made that mistake. Learn from.
Exactly. And I remember consistently in my life, and this is just I don't know. Maybe it was just the grace of God. Really, probably. Thinking I don't want to do that. I've seen the consequences of that action. Yeah. Right. I don't want to be there. I don't want to. Right. I understand that they look like they're having fun right there, but I also see this other side of it. I don't want that. Right. I'm staying away from that. Yeah. Right.
That's a no. That's a yes.
Exactly. And because I know that will end up there. And so learning from other people's actions, sometimes our actions, right? Our testimonies help others. Right. If we're not in the church, we can't help the people there.
No.
Right. We can't be the influence.
No.
And sometimes they just need to know, hey, God is good.
Yes.
That dude, look at that dude. He's here. Right. I would imagine that people who see me in my past, right, and they see where I am now, they're like, there's got to be a God. Right.
He is real.
God is real. There's got to be a God, and, men, we need to be in the church. That's just all there is to it. We need to be in the church. They need to know that people need to know that you care, right?
Yes.
They need your influence. They need to know that, hey, if Jesus can work in his life, he can work in anybody's life.
Yes.
Right.
He can. Yes.
And I think deep down, most men have this innate want to help, right? This innate wanting to be a good man, wanting to be right. They just don't really know what that looks like.
Right.
And, because I've met some really raunchy guys, right, working in factories and, even my past and stuff like that. And most of them had this, like, this weird code, right, where, they didn't care to do, like, all these things, but they were going to do that. Yeah. Right. You know what I mean? Like, you've seen it before, I'm sure.
Right. Yeah.
And it's that goodness coming out in them, right? And I'm thinking, man, if you only knew Jesus, right? If you allowed Jesus to work,
could you do?
What could you do, right? What could you do?
What could you not do? Works that way too. What could you not do?
Yeah, it works that way too.
Yeah.
But men, they need us in the church. They need our influence in the church. They need our children need your influence, right? Your children need our influence. This is not about, hey, how can I get how can I look the most holy? How can it's nothing like that. It's how can we grow together?
Yeah.
How can we become a stronger unit? How can we help others become stronger? We can only do that with our influence that God has given us. He's given you a purpose, right? And we're not talking about church being the end all, meet all of everything, but we are talking about a community of believers that grow together in Christ, right? That's what we're talking about. And they need you to be a part of that. They need your influence. They need, and I know I've said that 100 times, but it's the most important thing that you could hear. They need your influence.
Mm-hmm.
They need you to be there. They need your ideas. They need your wisdom. They need your, hey, I've been through that. Don't do that. They need that, right? And so I want to encourage you to, even though it's difficult, it's super uncomfortable, especially at first, to get in church. Even if you don't get involved at first, just be there. Just be present, right? Make it a discipline to show up to church, right? If for nothing else, for your children, for your wife, right? Lead them to Jesus. And then if you are in the church and you've been there for a little bit, I want to encourage you to get involved. People need you. People need your influence. And, we're not talking about preaching or teaching Sunday school. I tell you one of the most influential things, and I know we're coming to an end, but do you remember Bill Miller? Remember Kent's dad? He's been passed away now for several years. When we first moved to our church or whatever, he was the first one that started that. When you pulled up in the drive, he was standing at the front of the church waving, right? Every Sunday when I show up and they're there, right? Now you got Emmett and you got,
Ricky Cochran.
Yeah, Ricky Cochran and them. That's influence.
Yes.
Right? They're not doing anything. They're just waving at cars as they come on.
Right.
It doesn't matter. That is influence. That is their role.
Yes.
And they're so good at it.
They are.
They're so good at it. And it doesn't matter. You don't have to be a teacher. You don't have to be a school bus driver. You don't have to be none of those things. Maybe you just shake somebody's hand. Maybe you just open a door for they need your influence, right? They need your influence. And the people around you need to see that, hey, he's not afraid to take a step.
Right.
Maybe I shouldn't be afraid to take a step.
Yeah.
Right. So, Kyler, got anything to add to this before we land it?
I don't.
Okay. Men, don't forget, about the book, Framework for Biblical Masculinity. You can get on our website, realmenministries.us. You can also get on Amazon. We've got some new hats. You can see Kyler and I are wearing. If you've got questions about those or the t-shirts, let me know. Send me an email, realmen@palaceofpraise.com. If you got questions, send us an email, realmen@palaceofpraise.com. You can also message us on Facebook. We have a new Facebook group, Real Men Ministries, Become a Spiritual Leader. We would love for you to be a part of that. We've got a lot of cool things coming out. And so, along with the coaching program, if you'd like to know more about that, please reach out. You can find us on TikTok. If you like this video, please like, share. The more you share it, the more you like it, the more you comment, the higher it is on the algorithm. It gives people an opportunity to find it. And so know that we love you. Know that more importantly than that, God loves you and he is for you and he wants to see you succeed. And he is for you. And as always, I want to end in a prayer. Holy Spirit, teach us to be leaders of our homes, of our communities, and of our churches. And teach us to be godly, courageous men. In Jesus' name, amen.
been listening to Real Men Talk. If you'd like to get in touch with us, shoot us an email, realmen@palaceofpraise.com, or visit our website at realmenministries.us. You can also message us through social media. If you're a man age 16 and up and would like to be a part of the conversation, join us at the Palace of Praise every Thursday night at 6:30 p.m. If you don't have a home church, consider joining us for worship on Sundays at 10:30 a.m. and 6 p.m. Palace of Praise is located at 1400 Herschel Best Boulevard in Poplar Bluff, Missouri. New episodes of Real Men Talk drop every Thursday at 5 p.m. on all major podcast platforms. You can also find us on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, X, and Facebook. Real Men Talk is a production of Real Men Studios in cooperation with Palace Media Services.